Mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all well and I hope you're having a great day. What a flipping mess. Just look at the state of this place. So in today's video, I'm going to be repairing the inner wing, and I think welding wise, certainly from the rear subframe forward, all the welding is done now. It's going to be, after today's video, prepping stuff to put the front end back on. So really excited about that. It really feels like we've achieved something. So anyway, first thing I need to do is have a massive tidy up. I'm in a state as well. Had a good day on the Mini today. Thanks for tuning back in and enjoy this week's video.
Hey Mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. So I'm narrating my way through this video again, which generally is good news. If I'm narrating it, it means I'm progressing so fast on the footage that I don't have time to sit down and edit it. So it's a bit like an onion, this inner wing here, because there's 2 or 3 different layers when you start peeling it back. And it's quite important to try and get back to the point where you've got some clean metal to weld to. So I'm just sort of pushing the borderline here, because that inner piece of metal there wasn't nice shiny metal. I did have to wire wheel it back a bit, but it was solid enough to weld to. But I think I mentioned when we stopped the time lapse, this section on here is a really common spot for corroding on minis. Once you take that shop mount off, you're guaranteed to find a hole behind it, unfortunately. Thankfully, the inside of the actual cross member itself is always usually in good condition. You can see it there, it's nice clean metal still. While I've got the grinder out there, just cleaning up and linishing back some of the welds from when I've done the flitch panel. When I think about it, I'm actually really inefficient when it comes to working or restoring minis, because I spend more time cleaning up and tidying and putting things away than I do actually doing stuff sometimes. That's a little bit of my OCD. I do like to try and keep a clean and tidy garage, but sometimes you just have to get on with it, make a bit of a mess. As they say, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. So just if you're wondering here, I'm cutting out a template there. That's for that inner skin on the cross member. It's a Zintek coated steel, and I use 0.8mm steel, which is about similar to what's on the metal originally. You can get slightly thicker, you can get 0.9 or 0.1, but it becomes very difficult to manipulate it then. And you can get thinner as well. I do see some people, and I've probably done it in the past with 0.6. Very easy to bend into shape and get it how you want it, but it's thinner than the original metal. Now again, as in the previous video, I'm kind of speeding things up here with the painting. I do hate watching paint dry, if that makes sense. So cleaning up with a heat gun, and I'm straight in there as soon as it's flashed off a bit, welding the metal up. Otherwise, you're literally waiting you know, 24 hours before you're working on the car again, which is a bit frustrating. The issue is obviously you've now got some paint in there which is flammable, so you just need to be a little bit cautious. My advice to anyone that's doing any welding, I've worked in the trade all my life, and I've seen so many garage fires and sadly people get, you know, burns and burnt and yeah, life-changing injuries from fire, and it's with garage fires it's generally to do with welding. So my advice is if ever you're welding, whether it's MIG, TIG, gas, do your work, finish your welding, and then spend another good half an hour in the garage just doing other stuff. Make sure the welding isn't the last thing you do before closing the door, because things stay hot and yeah, there's sources of ignition that you might not have considered. This finger file sander, I wasn't that impressed with it to begin with, but it is really, really useful when you need to get in tight little areas that the angle grinder won't get to with the flat wheel on it. Just things like this where you need to really make sure it's flat. As I say, the angle grinder doesn't quite have the right angle, I guess, to get in there without damaging the metal around it. So the little finger file sander is really, really good for that. There we go. Nice new bit of metal cut out there. It's almost a perfect fit, that is. Now, one thing I wasn't sure about doing, just in case anyone comments actually, the original panel, there are a few spot welds in there between the sort of middle skin, and I was considering drilling it and plug welding a little bit in the middle of that mount, but the fact that it's seam welded the whole way round, I think negates the need for that. It's always an area for corrosion because, like I say, you've got 3 layers of metal coming together. So hopefully what I've done with using weld through primer, hammer right in the inside will slow that down, but unfortunately it just by nature of the construction, if you're overlapping metal, if you got metal sheets touching, you're always going to get condensation between the layers.
Right, so there we go, that's our repair done behind the shock mount there. It's quite common for them to corrode there, to be honest. When you remove the shock mount, there's always usually a hole there. It can be a little bit tricky because obviously you're welding 2 layers on there, so the layer underneath you have to make sure that the welds are grounded quite flat, so obviously they're not bulging out when you put the outer bit on. Now the final bit really on the front is we need to sort out this absolute mess here. So at some stage it's had a new front end on it, or a new front panel, and they've literally just welded the ears over the top of the old one rather than removing it. So I'm gonna have to cut. I'll probably, when things are a mess, to be honest, the only way out of it is just to cut it all out and get back to good metal. So yeah, maybe I can cut in a little bit there and then grind that. Hopefully be some good metal behind there. I need to remove this lip of the inner wing here. The wings on this are original from what I can tell, so we can see where the spot welds are. Just need to go along, drill all them out, get that lip out of the way and then cut it out. So we'll switch to time lapse and we'll get this little job knocked out. And then getting quite excited really, because after that, probably scuttle panel and new front end on.
So for drilling out the spot welds, I just use a Sealy Cobalt spot weld drill bit, 8mm. They're relatively inexpensive. Pick them up for about £7.50 on eBay, or buy a few of them in one go. You save a few quid. You probably get 100, 150 spot welds out of that before it's blunted. You'll see me, I'm often dipping it in oil. It's just cut in oil. It makes a drill bit last a little bit longer, but they last pretty well. Unfortunately, if you kind of get them at the wrong angle, you can blunt them pretty quickly, but if you're careful, look after them, you get good value for money out of them. You can buy carbide spot weld drill bits, which are there for drilling high tensile, high strength sort of boron steel on modern cars, and I'm sure they'd probably last much longer than the Cobalt spot weld drill bits, but they are a lot more expensive. They're about £35. One day I'll buy one and give it a go and see what they're like. Now, like I mentioned before the time lapse, this bit at the front here, what a mess. Yeah, I don't know who fitted that front panel, but yeah, not very well done, unfortunately. But it's, as many people have said before in the comments, and I quite rightly agree, you know, some of these minis may not be on the road today if cheap repairs weren't done on them in the past. Unfortunately, that is the truth. There would have been a point at its life where it may have been beyond economical repair and someone's done a cheap repair on it and kept it on the road. You will probably notice with me, if you watch my videos from a few years ago, I was far less cautious about protecting my eyes, lungs, etc. And even as I watch this, I think I should probably have some ear defenders on as well. But I start to really notice nowadays, as I'm getting older, as we all do unfortunately, the effects that breathing in some of this stuff has on your lungs and your general health. So just a word of warning for all the sort of young mavericks out there. Just look after yourself. You'd have seen many a times in the video when I'm chucking bits out the back on the scrap metal pile, I never throw anything away until the restoration is fully completed, because you never know when you might need to go back and just measure something, take a template off something, just double check something. So again, if you've got the space, if you're doing a restoration, don't throw anything away. Keep it right until the end. Just a quick thank you to everyone that has supported the channel. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, just thank you very much. Cheers for the beers.
Right, I don't often mess up, but I don't know what I've done there. Cardboard aided design has completely failed me. The cardboard must have moved or something like that, because that is, yeah, back to the drawing board, quite literally. Lucky I've got plenty of steel.
So hopefully at the second attempt it's a better fit. I do have plenty of steel. When I started this restoration, I bought, I think it was like 1/2 metre by a metre of 0.8 Zintex steel, because I knew I needed to make out various little bits and bobs as we go along. Now this is a little technique that might not be obvious watching the videos actually, which I use whenever I'm making little sections like this. I'll go along with a Sharpie, and where it's never perfect, where I need to take a little bit off, I'll just use the edge of the Sharpie just to, like that, just to mark the very top or the little indents, and then go along with a flat wheel and just refine it and get it spot on. If I get a chance, maybe I'll show a bit closer in some later videos. If you're new to welding and you're just sort of finding your feet, getting used to it, there's a couple of little tips I can give. One is get a half decent mask. And when I say half decent, you don't have to spend hundreds of pounds. Just don't spend 10 or 20 quid on a mask. Spend 50 or 60 quid and you will get something that works much better and will help you weld so much better than the mask that either comes with a welder, which is just, you might as well just throw it away, and some of the cheap stuff that's out there. Just spend a little bit extra. Being able to see the weld pool and the weld as you're doing it will just make you so much better at welding. And the other thing as well is cover yourselves up. Make sure you get some good gloves that protect you, because there's nothing worse than welding and being not afraid of the sparks, but when you get burnt a few times, it does make you a little bit cautious, and you need to be confident. So a decent, half decent mask and a set of gauntlets, so you're not worried about getting burned. It does make all the difference and give you the confidence in welding, and will make you a much better welder. I'm not an expert on welding, but I have been doing it for a very long time, and that's just my personal sort of tips for you. And finally, the worst thing you can do with welding is to look on Instagram and YouTube and places like that of people who make it look like an art, and they get it perfect every time, and they get these beautiful welds that look like they're laying dimes and whatever, because that just isn't reality. Reality is getting the grinder out. The grinder's your best friend as a welder. As messy as it may look, as long as you get decent penetration and you're getting the metal fuse together, you know, a grinder makes all welds look pretty. So if you're new to welding, just keep at it. Don't expect it to be perfect overnight.
Right, so there we go. I've had a massive clean up in between. That's our shock mount all sorted out now. Obviously got our flitch panel all done, and we got the front repair section in there. So that's all pretty good. That's good to go. The only thing I forgot to do, which I need to do next time I've got the welder out, is I've got the tabs which go up on the inside of the inner wing there that hold the carpets in place. So next time I get the welder out, I'll sort that out. And like I say, I need to mark up this hole, make sure it's round, weld on a couple of captive nuts. But we'll do that next time I've got the welder out. In the next video, I need to treat this surface here with that fur tan. Obviously this is just surface rust, but it wants some treatment on there to stop it spreading. And then we're gonna get the scuttle off and probably get the front end prepped for the new front end to go on. That's in the next episode. Thanks for watching this week. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, do consider subscribing. And if you want me to drop me a comment, I read all the comments. I appreciate all the kind words you leave and words of encouragement. Thank you very much. And catch you again in the next one. Cheers. Bye.